Welcome to the Fish Nerds, the show about fish, fishing, and eating fish. I'm Clay Groves, Chief Executive Fish Nerd, licensed fishing guide, your best friend, and I'm super happy to be here. Tonight, we have a co-host, very special co-host, our friend from, I think, Eastern Kansas, the tree-hugging redneck, from Eastern Kansas, the crappy hippie, Mr. John King. And John, also our most recent Fish Nerds correspondent. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you very much, Clay. A pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're excited. We'll talk about you in a minute, but you're going to be with us the whole time. And regular listeners will know that you're probably our most prolific caller, which makes sense to have you just use you on the show, since you're giving us content. You must be part of the show. And all of our correspondents have come from listeners, which makes the show your show. It's a show that belongs to the listener, and we're so happy that people care enough to do this stuff. So, John, thank you. Today on the show, we're going to talk about John's venture, the glass water lead-free lures. We're going to dig in deep and talk about why lead sucks and why we should stop using it. I've got a funny story there. We're going to, of course, do some fish in the news. We have some bonus fake fish in the news from Doc Martin. And I want to talk about some stories about guiding, some mishaps that happened recently. And we have a new segment called Fishing Ruined My Life, which is going to be kicked off in today's show. And by the way, if you want to call into the show, you call 607-378-FISH. And I try to use every call on the show, and we're here. So, hey, John, welcome.
Good to be here. Good to be here. Good to see you again.
Yeah. So, John, you run glass water lead-free lures. It's Angle King, right?
Angle King is our first product, yeah. And glass water lead-free lures. We are now actually Glass Water Angling, LLC.
Oh.
We got our LLC formed. We're a real company. We're not a mom and pop anymore.
Wow. Well, you can be an LLC and still be...
a complete dink? Yeah. Yes, of course.
Yeah. I mean, Fish Nerds is an LLC.
Yeah, well, look.
We don't make any money.
It's a step. It's a step.
But that protects you. That gives you that kind of like real business feeling, gives you a business ID number, and also prevents you from being sued personally, which is important.
Yes.
Especially, I hear in lure manufacturing, there's like a lot of patents and a lot of rules, and it's actually likely you're going to get sued at some point. So congratulations.
Well, I'll look forward to that. I will look forward to that. and then, you can too, right? You're bound to say something.
Thank goodness for free speech.
Yeah, right.
And I usually don't call anyone out by name, so we're trying not to do too much of that. Great. And your slogan is for better outdoors. Tell me, why are you doing this? Like, why? There's so many lures in the market. There's so many people doing this already. What makes you think you're different?
Well, the fact that there's competition only means that it has a monetary interest in a lot of it. Plus, I just wanted to do it. If you want to know the truth, it all came down to my soccer coaching. My daughter, when I told her I hit 50, I'm just going to kind of coast the rest of the way through my life. And she's like, "Oh, is that right?" And she's, are you living for excellence? Are you trying to achieve? Or are you just sitting around? So the 11 years of soccer coaching came back to bite me big time. And I had visited the Northeast when we were looking at different colleges and knew about the lead-free fishing laws. And I'm just for the average guy. And when a guy goes and he wants to get a lead-free weight, but the cost is way higher, or he can't find it, he has to order online, or he has to do this. I thought, we can really move this along. And I also realized that fishers by nature are environmentalists. Even if it's just a mercenary attitude that a clean environment means more fish to catch and more places to catch them, they want to take care of the environment. And I knew even outside the 5 lead-free states, there were plenty of people that would switch to lead-free if they were given a fair option. And that's what our company is all about.
The fair option is really important. And isn't it bizarre that only 5 states are lead-free?
It is and it isn't. I mean, they're going at it different ways. The provinces up in Canada, each are looking at whether to make lead-free province-wide. But they have all these designated waters now that are lakes where the people live nearby, or their water supply lakes and so on. And then those are lead-free. There's a lot of fisheries in California that are designated lead-free. There's a few in Michigan, a few in Minnesota. We had this conversation last time, Clay. I don't think we need to legislate these folks. I think if we give them the products, they'll use them.
I think you're right. But it's amazing how many people fight it. Like, they just think lead's great and the best thing ever. And we need to change those guys' minds. We need to convince them to come onto our side. And because those guys who love lead also hate legislation.
Yes.
So if we can get those guys that look, there doesn't have to be laws. If you guys do stuff that makes sense, no one will feel like they need to push you, and come along, join. Join. It's a good place to be.
It's like, lead's a good material. If it wasn't a neurotoxin, it would be one of the best metals ever. But, like Zoe says, it's a neurotoxin, and even a tiny bit of it can make you sick. But this is what their grandparents taught them, their parents taught them, whoever, someone they loved, someone that was special. This is what they were taught to fish. Mm-hmm. And your average person just doesn't have yards and yards of time where they can go out and relearn something new, or it's going to risk having a good catch day because he's holding on to some fangled, green idea that's been forced down his throat. We got to tell him, we got to show him this tackle is just as good. And in the case of like Angle King, better. We got to show them that, you'll catch just as many fish, just as much fun doing it. And it'll be a fair price, probably a little higher, but not so much the beating that you're getting now. And I think, they'll come around because, oh, heck, why not,
Yeah, and if honestly, if people see people catching fish, that's really what sells it. It's so as simple as that. Fish on a hook. What kind of hook is that? What kind of lure is that? What kind of bait are you using? That's what I'm going to buy, and that's basic.
Absolutely. It comes down to, is it effective equipment? I'm not fishing to save the environment. It's not, and that's not counterintuitive to loving the environment. I'm out here to catch fish.
Sure. Actually, if you really, truly are fishing to save the environment, it's a mismatch in a lot of ways.
Right.
I'm going to pull an animal out of the water and talk about how I'm saving the fish. It doesn't jive. You got to
absolutely
feel that, but we're not really doing it. It's not nice to look at fish.
Well, yeah, unless
it's fun.
Right. It's fun. It just, you get in touch. We all know, it's hard to explain the magic, but we all feel it.
We do. Hey, so you're launching a new YouTube channel I'm hearing about, and I saw you bought a whole bunch of new equipment.
Yeah. Well, just kind of getting that entry level equipment, but yes, we're, had this idea. We're a very small company, not much money, sounds familiar to a lot of us. And, so I know that, YouTube is a place where you can get some exposure cheap if you do it right. And I'm willing to get out there and shake it and, show some of the things I know. I've been looking at what works, and I've been meeting all kinds of people. So I can't wait to get busy with it.
That'll be fun. And it's a whole vortex beyond fishing now. That video editing is a whole game. I'm afraid of it. So
me
good
too.
luck on that.
Thank you. Me too. Well, they do have this program called Movie Maker. Have you ever heard of it?
I have.
Yeah. Have you? Yeah. And then I got onto some Adobe thing, and I thought I'd move to another planet. Oh,
Adobe is beautiful, but it is a foreign language. I used to use Adobe for editing the podcast, and it got too cumbersome. It's a much better tool, but the learning curve is so steep. If you're not in college for that, you're almost screwed. So very difficult.
Yes. I mean, we won't go into how cyber life and the changing times affect people that have the condition I have, which is called AGE. And it's like Granny's complaint, Anyway, I'm doing my best, though. We'll cross that editing bridge when we come to it.
Yeah, what's good for your brain, and if you plan ahead, you can limit the editing. So that's what I've learned is plan. Just know what you want and plan it, and then you can. Otherwise, you have like 800 hours of raw thing to make a 6-minute video, where the average watcher is only going to watch 45 seconds. So you have to really dial that down. So
absolutely,
it's a lot of YouTubers out there, and a lot of YouTubers make money on their YouTube channels. So there is potential. There's hope for you. And, of course, you can access the Fish Nerds Media empire now that you're a correspondent, and you can, of course, share all your videos with our world.
Well, thank you. I'd be great. I mean, it's just, it's another place where there's a lot of competition, just like the fishing business. But, they never seem to keep coming up with different kinds of shoes. They never seem to, quit coming up with different kinds of everything. And there's no reason to keep, every fisher out there wants a lure that they can depend on, and they're always looking for the next new thing. And the same thing on the YouTube. If you can tell a good story, people will come listen to it.
That's perfect. That's perfect. So the lures you're making now, we've talked about before, but they've got that. The head is made out of, what is it? The tin or
tin? I'm doing tin on the Angle King.
It's tin, and then you got like a rubber worm attachment and all kinds of spinner blades, and
yeah, it's a double underspin with successive blades. Well, you've got one, you fished one, you put 2 species on our species list.
I know, through the ice.
Yeah, through the ice. I don't know why I haven't been seeing you catching any smallies or anything on in the open water. Did you lose it or what?
I knew you were going to ask that question. It's I
you gave it away, didn't you?
No, I usually do that a lot, but I packed it away in my ice fishing shack. And I just haven't gone in there since I pulled it from the lake. It's just sitting somewhere packed in a box for next winter. And I don't even know what box it's in. So, but yesterday I was out fishing with some clients, and the bass were down deep. Usually like spring and fall, they're in really shallow water, but it's been really hot here this summer. So the bass have been going down about 20 feet deep. And my lures weren't getting down there. And I was actually thinking to you, I was thinking, if I had this stupid lure, if I had this... If I had this thing in my hand, it would be down there, and I'd be getting attention to these bass.
Well, I'll just have to send you some then.
I'll take them. But nothing else I was throwing was getting down to them. I couldn't get my lures down. It was windy out, so you're fighting that as well. So a lot of fun. Speaking of which, I was going to tell some stories about my guiding yesterday. I thought maybe you want to hear them. So we're going to transition into that. But we transition fast some days. Yesterday, I took some clients out from Miami, Florida, out on Conway Lake, which is a great bass fishery. It's a huge lake. It's surrounded by the White Mountains, and it's usually a pretty easy bass fishing lake. And it was one of those, but they wanted to go salmon fishing. So they called me up and they said, "Can we go salmon fishing tomorrow?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but you're not going to catch any salmon tomorrow." And they said, "Well, that's okay. We want to try anyway." And I said, "Okay." And they said, "Asked why we're not going to catch any salmon." I said, "Because the water is 75 degrees, 78 degrees, and the salmon are just hiding out, waiting for cold weather so they can breathe again. So they're not eating much." And so they wanted to troll. Do you ever troll for fish, John?
I have, but I would rather actually just watch my fingernails grow. Or, pull my own teeth out with pliers or something. No, I'm not much of a fan of trolling.
No, it's terrible. So I own all this equipment for trolling because I knew clients were going to want it. And of course, as a business person, you want to sell them the trip that they want. And I said, sure, let's go trolling. So they meet me at the beach at 6:30 in the morning, and they're excited about fishing. It's just a guy and his son. And we get in the lake. And I set the trolling gear up like a pro. I've got downriggers. I got lead core line, dragging behind the boat, which I don't know if hurts anything or not. It stays in the boat. Now I'm thinking about lead.
Yeah.
I got lead core line dragging behind the boat. I got 2 outriggers with the 8-pound lead ball on them. So I'm using a lot of lead, actually, yesterday. And then behind them, I've got all these spoons my friend had made for me. And we're dragging around the lake, and 2 hours in, no fish, no sign of life. And we're starting to, so I figured I'd cruise in just a little shallow. We're in about 40 feet of water. We're fishing about 20 feet. And we cruise into the shallow water, about 30 feet of water. And all of a sudden, we've got a bite. And so I'm like, oh, right on. So the kid starts reeling in the fish. The fish then does the classic thing that all fish does, which is fight, which means it tangles up almost all the lines on the boat that are dragging behind the boat. Now, you can't stop a boat that's trolling, because if you stop it, all the lines that are now like 200 feet behind the boat will now land on the bottom of the lake and get snagged up. So you got to keep the boat driving. Now, I'm the only legal driver on this boat. You have to have a license to drive in New Hampshire. So I'm trying to untangle lines, deal with this fish this kid caught, and all of a sudden I hear this horrible sound. I hear crack, 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 pop. And then I watch one of my downriggers break off the mounting up the rail and fly into the air. So I drop everything, including the fish, and I dive on the rail, and I catch the downrigger, the actual big downrigger, before it hits the water, and I catch the fishing rod that was in it. So one hand has the rigger, one hand has the rod, and the downrigger ball had caught on a stone or a boulder in the bottom and busted everything apart. So the downrigger's ruined. I put an 8-pound lead ball in the bottom of the lake, which is terrible. I broke the downriggers where I can never put it back on the boat again. All my lines in the boat are tangled up into one line. And the fish we caught, you want to make a guess what it was?
Perch.
No, chain pickerel.
Right. Standard.
Yeah. So what is that like? So I'm just doing a little bit of math here. Downrigger I bought used for $100. The 8-pound lead ball, there's another $29. So I did like $150 in damage with all the little bits and pieces that broke off for one big pickerel.
Nice.
And the clients were thrilled.
But talk about overhead. Come on, you know.
I know. I'm like, that's why we charge so much to guide.
Right. Hey, they got to watch you dive after a downrigger. That's worth the price of admission right there.
Right. Well, there's one piece of information I didn't give is that downrigger ball made it so my sonar didn't work because of it was 20 feet below the boat, and somehow that 20-foot spot where that was, my sonar saw that as a bottom of the lake.
Oh.
And so I learned that because as soon as that popped off, my downrigger sprung to life. My sonar sprung to life, and I could see everything again.
Oh.
If that was working, I wouldn't have been in that spot.
Yeah, right. It's like, thanks a lot.
Thanks for nothing. So now I know not to put a ball on that side of the boat if I ever will again. So after that happened, I said, "Hey, you guys want to go bass fishing?"
Yeah. If you want to catch pickerel, there's easier ways to do it.
And I love catching. I mean, look, honestly, with clients who have never freshwater fished, if you could catch 4 or 5 of those pickerel in a day, they'd have the best day ever. They'd be so happy. Oh, yeah. So I pack away all the trolling gear, and just as I do that, it gets really, really windy. Which on a pontoon boat, it's like driving a big sailboat. The wind just catches that boat and blows you across the lake. So I'm like, okay, let's go into a cove. We're going to anchor the boat. I'll teach you guys how to fish, and we'll catch some bass and some pickerel and perch for a while. So I cruise into the cove, and I'm talking to the clients, and I grab the anchor, and I throw it off the boat. We're in about 17 or 18 feet of water. And what's the worst mistake you can make anchoring a boat?
Not tying the anchor off.
Boom, there it is. So I threw the anchor in the water. I watched the rope uncoil on the deck of the boat, and I watch it go over the rail and into the water. And gone. And I'll just see these bubbles rising up. And
this is number 2, right?
This is not the first time this has happened to me. Well, the first time it happened was with some cement barrels I made for my mooring. And so, I guess I do this a lot. I'm not very smart. So I'm with clients. I'm dressed up fancy in my guide outfit, and I never have things in my pocket while I'm on the boat just in case I go in the water. So I just look at them and say, "Excuse me," and I just dove in off the rail, head first to the bottom, and I felt like I was down there for hours because I decided I'm not coming up without that anchor because it was a really nice anchor. And so I swam around the bottom, and finally I got my hands on the anchor. And I swam up with the anchor in my right hand and held it above the water. I could have had the rope, but I wanted the dramatic effect of me plunging through the surface with the anchor like an anchor hero instead of the amateur that I am. So,
anchor hero. I mean, they're going to talk about that forever. And then he just comes up, dude, out of the water like, a titan. Yeah, exactly. Angelic choir.
But I got it back. I tied it to the boat, and while I'm in the water, I knew where I wanted the boat, so I just grabbed the boat and I swam it over to the spot and put the anchor back in the water, tied it to the boat, and got in the boat. And then I try to show these guys how to fish, and I'm trying to figure out their skill set. Right? My plan was to use Senko type rubber worms, and it became very clear to me after 4 or 5 casts that that's actually a higher skill set than I was prepared for.
Yeah.
We need for clients, I need to get to a point where it's throw this in the water, reel it in. So there's nothing else to do. Just throw it in the water, reel it in. So I should have been using spinner baits. I should have been using rooster tails. I should have been using your glass water lures, all kinds of better choices than what I was choosing. And then when changed direction, my phone just won't stop ringing. Sorry. There's all kinds of better choices for lures than what I was doing, and I kept failing over and over again. But we did manage. In the end of the day, we ended up with catching 2 bass, which is 2 smallmouth bass, and about a dozen. Gosh, my phones are lighting up. And about a dozen yellow perches in that one big pickerel. And then it got to the point in the day where these guys weren't catching much fish. I'm getting that. I think I'm going to call it fishing guide depression, where you just want them so bad to have a huge win.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like, because you want your clients to catch fish. And the client said to me, did you bring us to your A spot already? Like your best spot? I'm like, yeah, we started there.
Right.
That was my A spot. It didn't work out for us. It's the problem with his fish move and don't do what you want to do. So I said, are you guys having a good time? And they're like, yeah, but we should probably wrap up, soon. And I've already gone over an hour of what they paid for. But I really, when you're guiding, you want them to catch fish. And so I said, why don't we just go tubing? So I inflated the tube and we just tubed around for an hour and played in the water. And they were thrilled. They just had the best day. So,
well, that's what I love about your service, because it can transform from, like I say, you're trying to get that experience where you can just, the fishing's gone south and just get out the tubes or just start diving off the edge. And you've got your waters are so pretty and so clear and clean and nice. It's sounds like a heck of a deal to me.
Yeah, they loved it. And of course, now they're all Instagram posting all these great pictures and what a great day they had. And it's funny to me, as like a fish guy who's been fishing a long time, if I had paid for that trip, I'd be so bummed out. Like, but it's the experience of the client versus the experience of me is such a different thing. And the clients were great. They had a fantastic time. They did nothing wrong except for, and who knows what they saw, like as far as me messing up goes. They probably didn't notice anything. They probably, that's great. We'll do it again.
Oh yeah, they're like, hey, this guy will do anything. All right, he'll go over the side. He'll, he's not going to get phased or flustered by anything.
I know. I was so casual. Like when everything was breaking, I'm like, oh, no big deal. We just put that away and do something different. And in my side, I'm like, God damn it, I'm so pissed.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Real life, man. Real life.
It is. And that's why, too bad we couldn't have had any or all of that on vid. That would have been great.
That would have been the worst. I think I'd be sad to put that video. Well, the video of the rope going off with the anchor and me diving in, I think would be pretty good. The kid told me, I said, was I underwater for like 3 minutes? He goes, yeah, like 12 seconds. Like,
yeah, right.
It felt like forever, but it would have been good. Yeah. So you did some guiding. You were telling me you did some experience like showing people where fish are. Have you experienced any kind of traumas?
Well, I understand the tension of wanting. I mean, I've been in the service business, most of my life. So whether it's a restaurant or this or that, you want your client to have a good time and to love what you're doing for them. This is just back when I was a kid. I mean, like one time, this guy, we were in Canada shooting a promotional film, and there was a guy from Michigan Herald or some such. Anyway, he asked me to take him walleye fishing. And I was only 16, 17 years old. So I was nervous. And of course, the lodge has the guides that run the boat, but they're mainly just boat jockeys. They're the kind that put you where there's fish, and then they just kind of lean back and expect you to catch them. Mm-hmm. And
that sounds easier.
Yeah, it is. When we got into this place, and I'm one of those fishermen that, dinks are fine, and we were catching a dink walleye about every other cast. That was okay, but I get bored with that and decide, well, I think I can, we can better this. There's got to be some better fish in here. Anyway, the guide put us in this spot, and I saw where the river was coming in. I saw this deep eddy, and so I'd wait for them to throw and reel in, and then I'd throw down the length of the boat, hit that deep eddy, catch walleye 3 or 4 pounds, reel it in. Anyway, I was trying to kind of wait, and because I just was intimidated by a kid. I was hoping they'd figure it out on their own. No chance. No chance. And I even said, out, throw down toward where the river's coming in, and he just kind of fling it out there. So eventually I said, hey, Jordy, the guide, I said, Jordy, let's move this boat over if you don't mind. And so, yeah, it was just tough. It's tough. I don't know if it's making a good story or not, but to have a 16-year-old kid telling, 65-year-old man and a 28-year-old guide, what the hell to do. But we got in there. And the thing is, we were fishing with Ed Eppinger and his grandson, and they were and this is the guy that makes Daredevil spoons. And, people were like, my dad was like, use Daredevils, because he's paying us for film too. And
right.
Well, we got in there with my friend Dusty Ensley. His dad's locally famous angler, Harold Ensley. He has this lure called the Reaper. I was like, not a chance, man. I put on the Reaper all three of us. Anyway, Al Spires knew Ed Eppinger really well and just gave him trouble the whole time. Every time he'd hook up, he's like, loud. He's yelling out, let's time it. Let's see how many. All right, we have 45 minutes till lunch. Let's see how many walleye we can catch,
Oh, I love that. I love when it's like that. It's
we caught 28 walleye, all of them, around 3 or 4 pounds. So it was
beautiful.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was one of those days everything works out. And, I got to live up to my dad's estimation.
Finally.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
For a day,
Yeah, for a day. Just so we can all be heroes, even just for a day,
Yeah, isn't it funny how we like now we're so like supportive of our kids versus our own parents who did the best they could at given their time when they had kids, but like now we're like everything my kids do, oh, it's a beautiful thing, and it's like it doesn't matter, like it's what they do, and we're always in it. And our parents were like, yeah, well, you could do better.
Yeah. And get out there. Just get out there. I'm feeling insecure. What? Feeling what? Just get out there.
Don't be a baby.
Don't be a baby. You're the best fisherman here. That's not what you said last night. Never mind. Get out there.
You got it. You got it. Yeah. Well, I guess it's supportive in a way. It makes you do the things, and being uncomfortable is part of it. So I'm hoping within a couple of years in the business, I've got this all dialed in. I'm bringing less gear. I think I had 14 fishing rods in the boat for 2 clients. So, but right now I'm over preparing for everything. It's just bananas. So I think anyone out there who brings people fishing feels that pressure.
Absolutely.
People have to catch fish today. And of course, you're not fishing in an aquarium. You're fishing in an open body of water. And anything can happen.
Anything. Indeed.
All right, John, you've heard about our new advice column. We're going to call it an advice column called Fishing Ruined My Life. And the idea is we're hoping that listeners will call the Fish Nerds hotline, 607-378-FISH, and leave us a voicemail and start off with saying, hey, dear Fish Nerds, fishing ruined my life. And it's brand new, so we haven't got a lot of calls yet. So we're going to work with an email that I got.
Let's hear it.
That I might have made up. You might have cued me in on. Dear Fish Nerds, my name is Kristen from New Hampshire, and my husband is just fantastic. He's funny. He's kind. He's a great dad. And most of all, he is beautiful. I mean, I just can't get enough of looking at him. He is pretty. But he has a problem. He loves to buy used fishing gear. He goes to swaps. He shops online. He loves to pick at antique shops and junk stores. Then all the gear comes home and sits in a pile and drives me bananas. What can I do to help him with collection and maintain my sanity? Signed, Crazy for My Collecting Husband, New Hampshire.
All right. That's sweet.
Yeah, this is based somewhat in reality, I'm sure. We'd love to have some else, but this is actually a real problem that people suffer from. They collect fishing gear.
Yeah. Hoard it. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got this problem, don't you?
I do indeed. I bring in, I sell, I give tons of it away. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I have the battle. I don't just have a basement, brother. I got a barn. And
I kill for a barn.
yeah. And there's a stall in there that is loaded up with stuff. Lots of rods.
How well organized is that barn?
Half and half. The rods are hanging up on nails, you know, but there's a box of reels, there's this, that, and it's dusty. And so when you get into stuff, it's, and so then when you see I mean, we're, one tip starting off, try to keep it organized, because when it's just a dang mess sitting there, you'll go, I'll work on that tomorrow.
I'll fix it later becomes the mantra.
Exactly. And then the mountain gets more intimidating and so on.
Yeah. And so you're married. Your wife's name is Catherine?
Kathy, yeah.
Kathy. And what would you say to her if she was complaining about your mountain of fishing gear? How would you, as a good husband, how would you help her understand your obsession? Or does she share this?
Well, she shares it in that she loves to go picking, and she takes me along. and so she's always with the the wifely tips, like, do you really need that? Or, is that a good buy? And I've learned to stay away from stuff that's busted.
Right.
I don't fix reels. I've tried and I can't. And so quit buying the ones that don't work real well. No rods that are busted. Sure, they're easy to fix. A lot of times you just need to glue a tip top on them and all that, but it's like, you're never going to get around to it. So I try to save my money for the real gems, even if they're stupid. I was at a sale the other day. There was a bass casting rod, for example, for $1. It had a wooden hand, with somebody's homemade rod. It's on a Fenwick blank, had a wooden pistol grip handle on it.
No.
Yeah. And that is so 70s and so dead and insensitive in your hand. Of course, nobody uses a pistol grip anymore, but I just had to have it because it was cool.
Yeah. Cool is a good thing.
Yeah. And we all, we all had to have a pistol grip back, that's my country back there with the pistol grip and the little 5.5 foot bass rod and, that kind of stuff. So if you get selective, then she's not quite so seeing it as, she starts sharing in the value.
Yeah.
And knowing that you're not just dumping money,
Yeah. And so for the question that was asked here from our listener, which is my wife, which I might have edited. She actually, I bring home we have in our town, we've got what's called a dump store, which is basically if you have something that's of value, but you're on the way to the dump anyway, you could put it in this little shelf unit at the dump, and it's free to pick. Anyone can come take it. So I frequently will find stacks of fishing rods and reels and tools and all kinds of stuff, and I have a really hard time not putting everything in my truck because it's totally free. So I see a stack of rods and I know they're all crap. I grab them all. I can't help it.
Yeah, well, and you can't, because you hate to see stuff go to waste.
Right.
I think that's I find this a lot, especially when people have an environmental ethic. Either you hate stuff to go to waste, or you were born, I kind of have it both ways. We never had much money, so you made do, right. And you fixed things, you did that. But you can get to where and then you have to judge, is this even worth fixing? And then you have to figure out where you're going to throw it, because now you've decided you don't want it. Right. It'll water down on you a bit, Clay, as you go along. You'll start hitting that pile when you open the door and all the stuff falls out on you.
That's where I'm at already. So what I've been doing is bringing stuff back to the dump store, and then I sit in my truck and I watch other people pick it, and then I go out and talk to them about it.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm like, I put that there. You're gonna love that thing. I try to sell them this thing that's free. It's just the weirdest reaction. I feel this connection to all the crap I pick up. But what can we tell? So let's pretend I'm not going to change, right? Okay. Because let's face it, I'm old, right?
Right.
We get kind of stuck, and we try, but I'm always going to be attracted to grabbing stuff, or whoever this person's husband is going to always be attracted to collecting.
Whoever
this happens to be. What can we say to Kristen from New Hampshire to help her be more supportive of her picking husband?
Well, he's not out picking other women. We could start with that one. That's tried and true.
Right. And God, impossible, I bet.
I don't know. We all get better looking after dark, and you add alcohol. I mean, I think anybody can make anything work out if they try hard enough.
All right, fair enough. Don't give me that. All right.
But I would say that there are ways to be supportive without giving into the whole thing. And
right. So you're saying she needs to buy me a barn.
She could buy you a barn, or she could give you a dedicated corner that once it's filled, you're going to have to start trading out. Or, like I say, I fix a lot of these little, and you meet so many kids with what you do as a guide and an educator. So, there's always that excuse. I'm one of these days, they're all going to get fixed up and out of here. I just need a place to put them.
They're for the kids.
They're for the kids. Yeah, you can break her down a little bit that way. But as far as the wife, I would, if it's just an eyesore, let it go. There's worse problems than that. Like I say, he could be collecting I don't know, hydrogen bomb casings or something just really, really obnoxious, or really could be doing the old cars. You could be out getting, picking old cars.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, you can pull up some images off Google. Yeah, of car pickers. And what my buddy Dan down the road is a car picker. I'll take a picture of his place, and you can show her. I said, I could be doing this.
Yeah, well, it's a tricky world, because I think everybody has, especially, this is going to be a little sexist, but I wonder if, like, are men more likely to be this kind of, like, collector than a woman? Like,
what, fishing stuff or just picking in general?
I think the kind of picking for these kind of items.
Oh, for fishing stuff, without a doubt, it's all men.
Without a doubt. But we all have these kind of things, and if that person who's collecting is not, first of all, being dangerous, right? That's going to be safe. So there's not piles of stuff that's falling on people. That person's, like you said, there's worse habits than collecting, right? You can alcoholism or being into drugs, or there's all kinds of other worse ways to behave, right? So you have to decide, this is my person. And is that the price of being with this person is they're attracted to collecting these kind of things? Am I willing to pay that price?
Sure.
And then you can help them organize it maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we try to be considerate, but everybody needs space to be weird. And it's a really, and I think, collecting, hoarding, whatever you want to call it, trying to preserve, it's rooted in our necropsychology, our fear of death. We want permanence. We want things to stay. We want to recover from the past if we can. We want to hang on, and we do crazy things. I mean, I've seen people that, pick glassware or dolls or anything. You ought to see their houses. It's even if it's really organized. Have you ever seen a place where there's 500 salt and pepper shakers, in displays? You'll know what I'm talking about.
I've seen that, and and my favorite. I met a person once. This is who collects. It's called nodders. They're salt and pepper shakers that they rock back and forth and they nod, and they're kind of all on little hinges. And it was a fantastic collection. I wouldn't want to be in the house with it long, but it's fantastic.
It's like, hey, okay, it's everybody's got to have that space to do their thing, and I'm sure, I'm not trying to be a jerk, I'm sure the wife has a couple things that probably get on her husband's nerves, and a couple of habits. Nope. Not a darn thing.
No, I can't think of a thing. Besides being awesome, nothing else. Nope.
Besides being on. I see we got a date night on the calendar here somewhere.
Hey, if my Patreon keeps growing, we're going to have a date night one of these days.
All right.
So anyway, that is the Fishing Ruined My Life, our first try at it. But we'd love to have some actual real calls. So call 607-378-FISH. Ask us anything you want, and we will solve all your fishy problems. So I think it's gonna be a fun segment once it gets seasoned a little bit.
Absolutely.
News, fish in the news. Everybody loves their fish in the news.
I love fish in the news.
Everyone loves fish in the news, and of course, I'm tying this into today's theme, which is not always, when we have you on, John, it's not always going to be about lead, but I know you love talking about it. So this is from Concord, New Hampshire. Officials say lead fishing tackle still killing loons in New Hampshire. And I'll give a little background. As people know, some states have lead-free rules. New Hampshire went lead-free because of the loon. And I think on Facebook, John, you pointed out that the loon is the poster child for the lead-free movement.
Yes. I mean, because there are many other species of wildlife that have an equal danger and equal demise because of this lead stuff.
Tons of them. We always are focused on, when you look at like environmental movements, they always pick an animal. If you look at like fish migration, they're always talking about salmon, even though like in the East Coast, Atlantic salmon aren't going to come back. But but what salmon do is they open the rivers or the doors, so to speak, for the other species of fish who use them. Loons, in fact, though, are making a comeback. But the lead-free rules, or people choosing, if that's your thing in Maine, for example, to go lead-free, will open the doors for other fish and other animals to get less lead in their bodies and hopefully flourish. But people in New Hampshire, live free or die. Don't tell me what fishing gear to use. And I think some people dig in deeper when they're told they can't do something.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a psychological. It's even a sales tactic. Tell somebody they can't make a buy, and the next thing you know, they get obstinate about it. Change is hard for some people, and they equate it with right and wrong, and with moralisms and am I a good person? And my thing is that, look, folks, it goes beyond the wildlife. Don't you, would you feel comfortable drinking out of a water that had 4 or 5 lead sinkers in it? I mean, do you really want that? You know what a coal roller is. They're the people that gun the big trucks with the big diesel stacks, just because they see a Prius on the road. There's going to be people that are just, like you say, dig in, get obstinate. And obviously these loons, somebody's out there just, ignoring the law.
Right. And we shouldn't need these laws. We all know lead's bad. We've outlawed lead paint in the 1970s. Same reason. Loons were dying, or people were dying. People were becoming loony from licking it. So it's been outlawed for years already. 2 years in New Hampshire only. So it's still relatively new. And there's like thousands of pounds of lead already on the bottom of the lakes.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
Even though we're stopping using them, it doesn't end the problem. The good news is lead is so dense. And that means it's going to, in a short time, will work its way deeper under the gravel and sand and muck in the bottom of the lakes, and actually will be less of a problem for birds eating them. We don't know the other problems it may cause later on, but we know that the longer it sits there, the deeper it goes down into the bottom because of its density. So that's good.
Yeah, that is good. And you always hate to say something like that, because now here comes somebody going, well, I mean, I don't have to worry about it. It's just all going to sink into the dirt. And it's like, no. We're losing, conservatively speaking, we lose 2,000 tons of lead into the rivers, lakes, and streams every fishing season.
That's a lot of lead.
And the number's probably about 10 times that amount. I mean, you base that on 51 million anglers losing somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 ounce of lead each fishing season. Now, I tell that to a crappie guy, they're like, hell, that's 10 jigs a season, or 20 jigs a season. He's like, I lost 20 jigs last time I went.
I was going to say, I have some days where that's my day, and so switching out of lead's important. But it's an awful lot of lead, and it's in the waters, and we know it's bad for us, right?
Right.
And that's what makes me think about like using even the other lead I'm using, like when I'm using the lead downriggers. Is that big ball doing any damage, or is the fact that it's such a big ball, is it inert? Like, is it going to leach into the water, or is it fine?
Cool.
And I don't. Yeah.
Oh, it's going to leach into the water. Absolutely. And it's, that's why once again, we struggle back and forth, and they've tried to bring the paradigm down to, does it have a direct effect on wildlife and what species?
Well, they're looking short term. They're right. Everything is short term.
Well, and it's, and we need, proof. This is the craziest country where we need proof that people are going to get hurt by it before we do anything, rather than have common sense saying people are bound to get hurt by this. Why don't we just head it off and get rid of it?
Right. Yeah, we know it's poisonous. We know for sure it's poisonous. We know for sure it's going to wreck you. It'd be easy to get rid of it. But it's there. And so people are still going to keep using it. The Fish and Game on this story said it's recent. It looks to be recent tackle. They probably tell by looking at it. From the dead loons, they do a autopsy, and there are people in a lot of states who think that the lead-free movement is being pushed by like the tungsten lobby or the aluminum lure lobby or some other agency who's going to make a lot of money on outlawing lead sinkers, which is pretty big statement. I guess not impossible, but there is money, as you know.
I don't know that there's any basis for that. First of all, well, going back, I read the article too. One of the loons actually had a piece of line still sticking out of his mouth. Still had, the hook in there, and the hook, if it was old, the hook should have degraded a long time ago. As far as any lobby, there's no lobby more powerful than the American Sports Fishing Association, the ASA, and they are a lead lobby. And the more crazy they get about lead, the more I know we're starting to, gain ground in our market. To the tungsten thing, tungsten didn't just, when tungsten came out, it was all about pro-bass fishermen, small size sinkers, being able to get in there, using that swivel top so that that sinker would spin instead of picking up weeds. They didn't even talk about the environmental impact. I just finally, just the other day, was looking on Cabela's, and they have a tungsten line called Eco Pro. So here, about 8-10 years after tungsten's been introduced, we're finally talking about it as an environmental plus. But if you remember, when tungsten first came out, they were trying to get these kids to pay $6, $7, $8 a piece, for bullet sinkers, for one bullet sinker, and the price has come down now. We're getting that price point closer to where, because demand's gone up, but for some reason, all of a sudden, Cabela's now is tying the environment. So I don't see that the tungsten lobby's after anybody. They're selling so much dang tungsten for shot.
It's great.
Steel. And for jig heads, especially ice guys, you got to have it, right?
We love it. Yeah. We love it.
So
by the way, I do just as well with tin through the ice or anything else, but that density is really nice. And then bismuth is also pretty popular.
Bismuth is popular because lead's an 11, tungsten's a 19, Biz is 9.8 or something, so it's almost a 10. So it's a high percentage. You get into iron and tin and stuff; they're down in the 7s as far as density. So no, Biz is great. It's good stuff.
Well, and here's the cool thing. So in New Hampshire, and I think other states should. This is a great thing. The Loon Preservation Committee's put some money up, and they're doing a tackle buyback program. And so if I bring lead to the state of New Hampshire, they're going to give me a $10 gift certificate to some certain fishing shops. And I happen to have about 25 pounds of lead in a bucket, lead weights and stuff I've been collecting over the years. So I might bring those down and trade them in, and then I can buy my tungsten, whatever I need to buy. But fishermen love buying new gear. They love new stuff. And so they need to get over all this and just stop using lead. And those states who do not have a lead ban, if you don't want rules, just do it. Like, make it a thing. Make it your thing. And avoid the whole government interference, and just do it because it's the right thing to do. And it makes good sense. I hate that people are fighting to keep their lead. And the other thing that bothers me is that, like, fly fishermen can use lead. Lead can be used on spinners, can be used on all kinds of other lures. It's just jig specifically for spin casting guys. A fly jig made of lead is illegal. It's okay. It's for spin casting only that the law exists. And it seems like a little bit of a mismatch there.
Well, I did not know that. That.
Yeah, perfectly legal for flies.
Well, but
I lose a lot of flies. I'm not sure that's
well. And you can get the tin wire. You can get a tin biz combo wire. You don't need to use the lead wire. And of course, when you're talking tungsten beads the size of a BB, they are more expensive than a lead one. But then again, you're tying those beadhead nymphs. Really. I don't know. Like I say, once again, I move beyond, the actual. I don't want to quibble about actual amounts and who's doing what. Let's just know that it's getting in the water. It's a contaminant. It's not good for life forms, whether they have to be birds, people, or something else. But on the other hand, let's just take it easy on folks. Let's not get everybody's back up. There's not a company yet that has a comprehensive lead-free program, but one is coming. And there's not a company yet that is targeting the entire market, both nationally and internationally, but there is one coming. I dream small, but we're going to get to where you can make that lead-free choice without a lot of pain. And then we're going to see, and I'm going to be proving out how good of guys and gals we got out there fishing.
We'll get you some more fish pictures with your lead-free stuff, and
I'm gonna send you some, buddy. You need prizes. You got clients. I got a guide program. That's one of my marketing things, is to get lures out to guides. Let them.
Oh, I could be a pro staff for you.
Absolutely. People catch the fish. They take a picture. They got the lure hanging out of its mouth. They ask the guide, "Hey, what else you got in that tackle box? I'll buy some of these." And it's people were talking to me about hiring a pro, and I thought, instead of hiring some high-dollar, big-name pro, because I'll never have that kind of money, not anytime soon. I can send small gifts out to the most important pros out there, our guides, and let them people on the fish, and then they're going to love the guide, they're going to love the lure, they're going to love the company. Anyway, that's my idea. So you're getting some stuff in the mail, Mr. Groves.
Good. I will be sure and social media up there.
All right, man.
Next, we have Doc Martin. Doc Martin visited a few weeks ago to help us celebrate our 200th episode. John, you were part of that. You weren't here, but you helped write the song that she sang, which was fantastic. Made me so happy. And happy that she visited too, which is bananas. And on our drive back to the airport, we recorded a bunch of fake Fish in the News segments where Doc Martin would read me a news story, and I would have to find out, is it fake or is it real? And that was the little game we played. And so we had a bunch of those. Forgive the background noise on these. We recorded them in the car while driving to the airport. So we did the best we could. The content is good. The sound is kind of whack, but I think it'll be good stuff. So thanks, Doc Martin, for being part of this.
Boop. Recording.
Okay. So Clint Eastwood and Ron Howard and Matthew McConaughey decide to make a movie together. Clint Eastwood said, "I'm going to act." And Ron Howard said, "I'll direct." And Matthew McConaughey said, all right.
Boo. Boo. It's terrible.
You've heard that?
Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, that's kind of what Matthew McConaughey does.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Why can't Matthew McConaughey go left in a car?
All right.
Yeah, because he only turns all right.
Every Matthew McConaughey joke ends with that.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah, that's really funny.
God. Okay.
All right.
So Clay, what is a fish?
Ooh.
We want to start with that.
This is a classic question, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is whenever I'm doing fish talks, people who don't know fish, I always start with this question.
Mm-hmm.
Because
it's hard.
Because we can define mammals very easily.
Oh, actually, why don't we define mammals?
Oh, okay.
We're going to get weird here.
We're going to define mammals?
Yeah.
So when I'm teaching this to kids, I give them some really basic 6 things that mammals share, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mammals have teeth, live young, milk, hair, they have backbones, and they're warm-blooded. So those are the 6 things I teach when I do kids. If you can do those 6 things, if you have all those in common, there's a good bet you're a mammal, right?
Yep.
Okay. Am I wrong?
No.
Okay.
No, yeah, no, I'm agreeing.
I'm always like, because you know more stuff than me, that's where I get nervous.
No.
So then when I do fish, I'll start with that, and I'll say, okay, now define fish. And the kids will raise their hands, and they'll say, all fish have backbones. And I'll go, no. And they'll go, well, all fish have scales. And I'll go, no. All fish have gills. And I'll go, no. All fish are cold-blooded. And I'll go, not really. And so fish are much harder to define. And so we define them more as what they're not. They're not all the other things. They are fish.
That's good.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with fish.
Okay, so I
can't define them well. Bony fishes, we can get into it, but
it gets hairier.
Yes.
You're going to appreciate that joke in 5 minutes from now.
I can't wait.
So now we've kind of defined fish-ish, and
which is how we define fish.
Yeah, fish-ish.
That's why I love them.
And we've defined mammals. Okay, they do share a few characteristics.
Sure.
Like backbones and things like that.
Yeah. Some.
So now it brings me to my story. You're going to have to tell me if it's real or fake.
All right.
So this guy from Wisconsin.
Fake. I'm just kidding.
There's no men in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin is pretend.
Doesn't exist.
There's no fish there. They just make cheese. That's
Clay's
all I
never
know.
been there.
It doesn't. Yeah, I have never seen it. It's not real.
Okay. So he has this picture, which I'll show you in a second. But he wanted to share a remarkable catch that he had one afternoon in May of 2015.
Okay, so good. So he's good. I like that's recent.
And he was fishing on the Menominee River. And he caught some trout packed in a bottleneck. He caught a few that were totally normal. And then he reeled in this one.
Oh, boy.
He's never seen anything like it. He contacted the local wildlife official, and they were over the moon.
Of course.
About how rare this fish was. So it was an extreme case of saprolegnia.
Saprolegnia. So let's take that apart.
Okay.
Sapro, from the Latin term for tree sap. And what's the other sapro?
I think legnia. I might be mispronouncing
Legnia
this.
mean alleged, meaning lies.
Okay. You're so close. Okay, and so it was so exciting because of this rare, I don't know if this is genetic or an infection. I don't know. But he got it mounted. So it was the rare fur-bearing trout.
Now, this is a trout I've seen before.
Oh, okay.
In Maine, in Moosehead, Maine, there is a little shop up there, gift shop called Camp. And they have one of these mounted on the wall, and it's called a fur-bearing trout. And it was caught in the 1920s. And it's right next to the jackalope mount.
Oh,
It's right on the same wall. And I haven't taken it down. I got to touch it. And it felt very real to me. And as we know from the Varmints podcast, jackalope are real. They tend to explode if they get wet, and there's all kinds of things you got to worry about with jackalopes.
Gotcha.
However, is this real? And so, have you heard of black hairy tongue syndrome? By the way, we're going to pay a toll right now. You've heard of black hairy tongue? If you by listeners who have not heard of black hairy tongue, do not Google black hairy tongue syndrome. It's a bacterial infection that you can get in your tongue that you grow black hair, but the hair is just a fungus.
And for the record, the saprolegnia, that's a real thing that trout do get.
Really?
Yes,
so
that's real.
What is that?
It is, I don't know, I think it's some kind of infection. I don't know if it's like a mold or a bacterial infection, but like the black hairy tongue, it's related somehow to that. But basically it grows on the outside of the fish.
Right, so the question we're going to answer today is the fur-bearing trout news real news?
Right.
And I'm thinking I want this to be real.
Okay.
I would love it to be real. But I'm going to go with... here's the question. Do I want to be right, or do I want to be made fun of?
But why not both?
Why not? I'm going to be no matter what I'm getting made. It's pretend. It's full-on pretend. But I conceptually love it. Like I love it like I love the jackalope.
So we're going to go with fake news?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
It's completely fake. And actually, the actual disease, the saprolegnia...
Hang on, we're paying a toll.
Okay.
Paying a toll.
Pause.
Hi there. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you. Why do I say thank you when I give people money?
Well, they let you through.
Let me drive on your road. Here's $1.
Okay, so the actual disease that they have, it does affect fish, but it doesn't actually look anything like fur. It just kind of looks like a white discoloration, so it's not fuzzy at all.
Yeah, I think I've seen... And is it fungal?
I don't know. It doesn't say here.
I've seen fish with this kind of description on them, and it looks like fungus to me.
Yeah.
It looks like an athlete's foot type.
That's what I would guess, but I don't have it in front of me, so I can't say with conviction. Probably fungi or bacteria. Those are the common things.
Yeah, but I do love fur-bearing trout, and I have seen them with my eyes.
Well, there's some pictures here. I'm looking at them.
I've touched them.
Yeah, there's one mounted on a wall in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I'll have to dig through my archive. Somewhere in the Fish Nerds newsfeed, there's a picture of the fur-bearing trout from Maine.
But it is absolutely fake, and most of them are covered in rabbit fur.
That's where they went wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, different kind of fur. People believe it. Like, if you were to put an animal fur on fish, what do you think would be the most appropriate?
Actually, what I would use is the bird, the kiwi, because that already looks a lot like fur, but it's actually feathers.
Now, feathers on a fish I would find more believable. Because of modified scale or something
exactly.
like that.
So that's what I would pick.
Yeah. God, are there any examples of fish that have feathers?
I'd say the closest would have to be like a flying fish.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of feathery, but that's not the same.
Yeah,
because that's like an appendage.
Yeah, I'm curious. I bet no. But I wonder if there's like anything
like a leafy sea dragon, they have those projections.
Yeah, and some of these fish look... Yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, fish look weird, dude.
They're totally weird.
But you can't call them feathers.
No, we couldn't. So you would be a very bad fish scientist if you did that. Oh, look, it's got feathers. It's a rooster fish.
Perfect.
Cock-a-doodle-doo. All right. Thanks, Doc.
Yep.
So that's it. You've listened to a bunch of fish nerds when you should have been fishing.
Yeah, we should have been fishing. We'd like to thank our families for supporting us while we podcast, go on fishing quests, and doing all the silly things that nerds do, and they are silly. Special thanks to John King, the crafty hippie, for being part of this show, and welcome to the Fish Nerds. We call it the Secret Society. Welcome to the Secret Society, which is our correspondence. We're happy to have you.
Thank you very, very much. I feel so blessed. And so until next time, follow the code of the Fish Nerds. Spawn early and often.
Avoid free lunches with strings attached.
And swim against the current every chance you get.
Nailed it, John. You got a good voice. I think it's going to be good.
Oh, well, thank you.